is the intro. So
Yeah,
I
but I
give
like the intro like this. What are we talking about today? Did we? What are the headlines?
yeah. Well, we're going to talk about the Epstein list revealed. But the one thing is, when I was talking about the intro, like the music intro, for some
Yeah.
reason it's getting flagged on YouTube. So we're not going to be playing the intro today. This is going to be our intro.
Oh well, that's a great intro. I like the content. It reminds me of our boy Joe Rogan. You know, the only guy who speaks freedom.
All right, welcome to the J&J Podcast. This is Josh Lewis. Super glad to have everybody here. This is episode number 14. We're going to be talking about one of the craziest bombshells that has been dropped, and that is the Epstein List revealed. We're also going to be talking about a bunch of other stories, but that was the main one we're going to cover. And Jeff, I think we should actually refer it to as the Epstein list because people are getting censored if they say Epstein on
Get
different
out,
platforms. Apparently, that seems to be the case. That seems to be what's
dude.
going on.
No, it doesn't shock me. I'm out here with Carlos. We just finished the sales summit we're at for our business, and it's funny, man. I think a lot of people all the time see what's going on in the world. Everybody, I keep asking people, and I'll ask you, Josh, what's your word for 2024?
My word is consistency.
Okay, yeah.
Consistent.
It's funny. I have a C word too. It's community, and the reason why is because, well, let's say, what should we call him? Epsto? Can we just say pedophile? The pedophile? Can we do that?
Pedo boy.
Yeah, I haven't.
Epstein.
Yeah.
Um,
So, really quick, listen, it's almost like a train wreck. You can't look away, and I think a lot of times too. The fact I'm glad we're doing this, and I don't know if you saw the piece that you obviously know Andy Friselli, right?
of course, Priscilla.
So I sent you the video. Did you see when he said they're going to do off the grid? They're going to do everything. They're just going to kill the grid. You heard him say that, right?
Right, they're gonna take the grit everything
So
off.
do you think? Let me ask this question: do you think we'll get to 1,000 episodes before something happens with a cyber attack? Yes or no?
Well, I don't know. It depends on how fast we want to do these episodes. If we're doing 20 episodes a day, we might get there. Or if we're doing 2 a week, it depends.
Yeah, no. We're going to do 2 week. When do we normally do these episodes? Thursday nights and Tuesday nights.
I'd like to do Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you guys are watching right now, tune in at least on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. We will be going live. But let's get right into it. We're gonna be
Well,
talking.
before we do, we don't have any sponsors yet, but if you guys want sponsors, click like, subscribe, and share this. Thank you for the people who actually have sent me messages. There's people who sent me a message, hey, can you cover this? Because I send the videos out. So our 12 subscribers in the J&J Podcast, I know this isn't Josh. I'm going to pretty soon, once we have guests, live stream this on my channels as well. I think we're on Twitter. So welcome to the Twitter family as well. Shout out to Josh doing everything. But let's get right into the story. Go ahead, Josh.
Okay, so first off, I'm gonna share my screen in a moment, but if you see what is trending on X right now, it is the first name is Epstein, and I'm gonna guess before I pull it up. Don't look. How many posts do you think Epstein has at the
Dude,
moment?
I don't even know, man. I will say, though, I couldn't find the real news. I went to Twitter. I went to X for the news. I went to X and searched and started reading through Jimmy Kimmel and everything in there.
So if you had to guess, what would it be?
I don't know, like 10,000.
3.6 million posts.
Wow.
So this is dominating the news right now. This is dominating the news cycle. And have you seen anything that's going on with Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Kimmel?
I did see Aaron Rodgers say something. I saw Jimmy Kimmel say, take your thing or my lawyers will come after you and be very sensitive. By the way, shout out to my man Aaron Rodgers. Doesn't take the vax, stands up, and listen, I like Jimmy Kimmel kind of, I think. I don't know if I do anymore. I thought he was always a funny liberal. I think there's a lot of funny liberals. I think most liberals are funny. I will say that for what they are. I think they mean well with their heart, but I think maybe Jimmy Kimmel is. I mean, here's the thing. Nobody wants to be linked or tagging the name. I saw Bradley Martin. You know who Bradley Martin is?
Yes.
So Steve will do it. Tag Bradley Martin. And they have some beef. It's like if you want to get some beef, you're just going to start tagging people like high school, like you said,
Yes. So, I mean, we're going to get into, I'm scrolling everything through some of the top stories right now. So these are what some people are saying. Michael Schellenberger saying the new Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell court documents show nothing of importance, say the media. In fact, they shed new light onto Epstein's sex blackmail operation. What's more, the evidence strongly suggests that Epstein and Maxwell working for intelligence agencies.
Wow.
So what's going on right now, Alan Dershowitz is apparently on the list. What else we got here? So whenever you see, and people have created this into memes, these type of messages, these threads, like in the Courier New font, it looks like a script.
Yeah.
This was more Jeffrey Epstein's have been unsealed, starting with the testimony of a minor who was abused by Epstein. So from my understanding, what's happening is there's a lot of Jane Does and there's some John Does, but mostly Jane Does. And these are people who are at the time, women who are at the time that were minors, but their names have been retracted because they were minors. So from everything that I've seen, what's happening is most of these, the files look like this. So, and at the time you are 15, 16 or 17 years old. And then somebody, Mr. Pagliuca this is during a testimony. So he objected.
I just think it's crazy that they have someone defending, like the pedophile. They have someone objecting.
Well, it's part of the American process. It's a beautiful
but like,
thing.
I think everybody, like 99%, maybe 98% on the thing, knows there's something wrong with Epstein, knows there's a whole pedophile thing. They either don't want to look at it or do look at it.
Dude, there's people who went on his plane and went to his island. There's a lot of people. Those people are powerful people, and they're also people who are going to be defending him as well. So
like,
I'm not surprised. But anyway, hold on a second before we get distracted. So at the time, you're 15, 16, or 17 years old. The witness, yes. No massage experience? No. You were told to bring other girls to his house? After a while, yes. Those massages were turned sexual by Jeffrey as opposed to by anyone else. Jeffrey took my clothes off without my consent the first time I met him. So apparently these are different things that are going on. Now, have you heard about Stephen Hawking going?
The midgets.
So this has been pretty crazy. And let's see. Where are my bookmarks?
Stephen Hawking, he passed away too. He's dead, right?
He did. Yeah, he did pass away. Let's see. I have my bookmarks. Here we are. All right. Oh, where are my bookmarks? Right here. All right. So there's been a lot of different memes going. Stephen Hawking, as soon as he touched down on Epstein Island. So Stephen Hawking allegedly liked watching undressed midgets solve complex equations on a too high up chalkboard. Hold on 1 second. Wait, are you telling me that Stephen Hawking frequented the island for pleasure? Yes. Jeffrey loved to have intellectuals visit the island so he could reward them for their hard work for humanity and for other darker reasons. Did Jeffrey ever talk to you about Stephen Hawking's proclivities? Yes, he liked watching undressed midgets solve complex equations on a too high up chalkboard. This sounds like a comedy sketch. This doesn't sound real to me.
Yeah, by the way, I know.
There's video of him, by the way, making his way to Epstein's Island right here. If you see that, that's him.
That's really not him, right?
Yeah, I know. And then that's him rolling up to Epstein's Island. Dude, the internet has gone crazy. All right, I want to go into that video as well. But here's the thing about all this, and I want to get into Aaron Rodgers as well. The impact of what's going to happen, rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Do you think the impact is going to be great, meaning there's going to be a lot of people held accountable. There are going to be people who are arrested. There are going to be people who are put in jail, put life imprisonment for partaking in these hideous crimes and acts? That's like 10. Or 1, nothing happens at all. No one
Yeah,
gets
so
it.
I think Robert Kiyosaki's right. I think they're releasing this stuff just to bait a civil war. I do believe that people will get probably off on this, just like Bill Clinton, who's somebody who's been, attacked on a lot of this stuff, and certain people who've been so protected because people on the higher ups seem protected and untouchable. Um, but I don't think they're untouchable. I think a lot of people are very wise. They're up to what it is, and I do believe there'll be more people calling for it, calling for justice in this situation because it's just an evil act. That anytime you are anybody who stands up for them, I mean, maybe not the state of California because they're and no pun intended, they're in bed with a lot of these type of policies with what they've passed, which is just horrible. It makes me ashamed to be in America knowing that somebody who has a ton of money can do whatever it is to blackmail, have demonic evil acts, put people on islands, and these people can walk scot free. And meanwhile, we can have other people, um, that were at the insurrection who probably did a tenth of this and didn't do that, and they're still locked away, right? I mean, if you really want to go on that level, right?
It's interesting the travesty of justice that has been going on these past few years. It seems to me that most of the things that are happening now and who are being held accountable are reversed. The people who are being held accountable are the people who maybe deserve a slap on the wrist, and the people who are not being held accountable deserve imprisonment. To be honest, and I know I'm losing faith in a lot of different things. I think what's going to happen is they're going to arrest or put away nothing people, like people who like you've never heard of, but this person was on the island 28 times and they've been arrested. But I don't think Bill Clinton's got anything's going to happen to him. I believe he's one of the people that's been named that's been on the flight logs out of everybody. Um, I just don't think I don't think we're at that point where he's going to be held accountable. Especially with the
Yeah,
Biden.
I don't see it. Like, who would be held accountable? Like, who would be some of the names? Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah, so let's get into that because this is crazy of everything that's going on right now. And honestly, this is how I this is how I equate this story. There was a game in high school that guys used to play. And that was when a girl would walk by, you would yell out the word SLUT. And you'd yell it out. And whenever girl turned around and looked, would be the SLUT. It's called, that game. This is what I feel like the Epstein game has gotten to. Because whoever's calling people this, whoever is responding, seems to be like, oh, I'm gonna get mad. It makes them seem guilty, and that's listen. I'm not a Jimmy Kimmel fan. I think he has totally gone so preachy about his own beliefs and so biased. And
I haven't watched him. I knew him from the football days, and he was funny. I thought he was funny there. I thought he was like a Craig Carton,
When he first started on the Jimmy Kimmel show, I kind of liked his show. He wasn't wearing a tie. He was relaxed, but he realized that wasn't going to work. And the powers that be were like, no, you have to be like this. And he just kind of conformed to what late night would be. But after a while, he just started going to the powers that be's talking points and doubling down on it. Remember, and we're going to bring this up, Jimmy Kimmel was the one, right, that said, I think the choice is pretty simple. Vaccinated person, come on in. Unvaccinated person who ate gobbledygoo, rest in peace, Weezy. And his whole point was to get rid of people who were unvaccinated. I'm going to turn Jeff off because he got the show. But so that's Jimmy Kimmel. Don't forget that. So let's see. Let me see if I can bring it up. So this is so Jimmy Kimmel's trending, by the way. So let's go back to X right now. All right. So if you search Jimmy Kimmel, you've got People talking about how he dissed the Trump administration. You've got, let's see, Jimmy Kimmel asking for hospitals to not treat unvaccinated patients, as we were just talking about, and let them die in hospital corridors was dangerous, wrong, and shameful. He never apologized. Yeah, of course he's not going to apologize. Jimmy Kimmel says unvaccinated people shouldn't get ICU beds in hospitals. All right, he's a sick, deranged monster. Let's see. I thought it would be right up. This guy called out Jimmy Kimmel. This guy was a UFC fighter.
When was this?
This wasn't too long ago. And he said,
secondly, Jimmy Kimmel, viral this. I fight to eradicate childhood malnutrition from the planet. And until they release the flight logs, you, the mainstream media, Hollywood, are all pedophiles to me. Eat dick. Am I canceled yet.com?
Who is that guy?
I forget. I remember when I watched that.
Paul Ballman. Wow.
Yo. This is Jimmy Kimmel doing the things that he now yells at people about. I don't even want to look at that. It's embarrassing, to be honest. All right. So I want to see
Aaron Rodgers. Coach Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. So let's.
So why did Aaron Rodgers get involved in this?
Because Aaron Rodgers. Okay. So Jimmy Kimmel was calling out unvaccinated people. As we know, Aaron Rodgers was allergic to one of the things in the vaccine. This guy wasn't like some anti-vax guy, but he's like, hey, I'm allergic to that. I can't take the vaccine.
Right.
So here we go.
Yeah, I saw this.
You'll see it.
The emblem, put it on the screen. And then bring up 57 and 56.
This has something to do with the Epstein list that came out.
Feels like.
That's supposed to be coming out soon.
Look, this guy's been waiting in his wine cellar.
Yeah.
I've been waiting in my wine cellar for this thing.
A lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't come out.
All right. Obviously, a clip from this particular program was.
So I'll tell you what, if that list comes out, it'll definitely be popped in some sort of bottle. So that is what Aaron Rodgers said, including Jimmy Kimmel. And then Jimmy Kimmel, if he didn't delete his tweet, which I doubt he did. Let's see. Where you at, Jimmy? Yeah. So, dear asshole, and he spelled it with 2 A's because he's a comedian, remember? Because Aaron Rodgers is spelled with 2 A's for Aaron. Genius. For the record, I've not met, flown with, visited, or had any contact whatsoever with Epstein, nor will you find my name on any list other than the clearly phony nonsense that soft-brained wackos like yourself can't seem to distinguish from reality. Your reckless words put my family in danger. Keep it up, and we will debate the facts further in court. At Aaron Rodgers. So he's threatening to sue him.
Right, yeah. PBD retweeted it out. Did you see that?
I didn't. Let's see what.
Yeah, go to Patrick and David. He's actually been pretty mouthy on this.
Well, this to me is, listen, Jimmy Kimmel, you're a comedian.
I think it's under his personal account, not this one, but you can.
Jimmy Kimmel's a comedian, right? So Jimmy Kimmel's a comedian, and like, what's the actual reasoning?
Well, that's exactly what Patrick Ben David said. He said that. I think it's funny that or someone else might have said it there.
So that's like, he can make fun of other people, but as a comedian, you have to expect people to make fun of you. And if they do it, I mean, just take it in stride. But listen, if you don't want to make fun of people, then it's either one of two things: make fun of people and take it in return, or don't make fun of people. It's really that simple. You doing okay? What's going on over there?
We're at a restaurant and they ordered the wrong food here. We have a guy from Punta Cana here. We're planning on trip.
Who's they? People you're sitting with?
What I say?
No. Are you sitting with people?
Yeah, I'm sitting at a bar here, and there's a guy here from the business event, and there's a manager because they brought out the wrong food. I didn't eat dinner yet.
Got it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Jimmy Thin Skin Kimmel.
That was it. Yeah.
No. So listen, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think?
Let me ask you this: did Jimmy Kimmel, was he on any of the links or no?
So far, no. Now, there's been so many documents that came out. Like part 1 came out last night. Part 2 just came out like 20 minutes ago.
Kind of like the Taibbi files with Twitter.
Right. Yeah. Matt Taibbi. I think the thing is I don't know. This list was delayed so much. I don't know if somebody did the whole here's $20 bill, like, hey, make sure my name isn't on that list type of thing. And I'm sure a lot of people did that because what is rumored over a long point of time is that a lot of different names. And now it's coming out and it's saying, some names are coming out, but not a lot. So maybe it's a big, as they say, nothing burger. Maybe nobody went to this island.
Speaking of which, Trump, they were trying to include Trump on the island, and everything that came out in his stuff is like, no, not Trump. Like, I went and looked through the files. It's a lot of files. It's a lot of gross stuff to read.
By the way, CNN. I want to talk about this for a second. So I am at the gym. Okay, so CNN, two things. First, CNN has been using Trump and saying Trump and Clinton and the Epstein logs, right? They've been using that as clickbait, saying that Trump and Clinton, right? Where, as far as we know, Trump hasn't been involved in any of the list, but they're using his name for clickbait. Now, Jeff, I'm sure you remember when it was snowing all the time up here. It doesn't snow where you're at in Miami, but in the Northeast, it always does snow. I'm at the gym. I'm doing cardio, and I look up and CNN's on. And I see that the headline says, Northeast to receive snow for the first time in years. And I looked at it, and we're part of the Northeast. And I was like, well, that's not true for us. And I was like, well, they must be dialing it down to be like, hey, well, this part of the Northeast, maybe this part of New York hasn't received snow in like 3 years, right? The guy that they had on for the weather was saying that the Northeast in general, because of the climate and how it's changing, has not received snow, that they don't know what snow has been like. And now they're going to have to worry about how they're going to have to get ready for the roads again because they haven't experienced snow in such a while. And I'm watching this. I'm like, that's a lie. This is a lie. It snowed last year, like all throughout Connecticut. Like, and I know it snowed in New York as well. It's like, what are they talking about? And I was waiting for them to point out specific areas. And then they just turned the conversation into how the climate is changing and affecting everything. And I was just like, my God, like this is the problem. All before, and now they're blazing. I didn't watch the whole thing. They were on 10 minutes later, they came back and said, hey, these were the only 3 or 4 parts. So maybe I'll be corrected that didn't get snow. But having said that, if I lived in the Midwest and I've never been to the Northeast before, I'm going to watch CNN and I'm going to take them as their word and go, wow, something's going on with the climate because the Northeast hasn't gotten any snow because they've never been there. But since I've been there and I have physical experience and seeing through my eyes, but I'm being told by the media that there's no snow in the Northeast. It was just insane to me.
Which is why I'm so glad we're doing this, because this is a form of the media. This is sort of, Mario on Twitter Spaces, citizens journalism. This is putting out our media, right? and CNN's ratings are dying, and it's only a matter of time of us getting a whole production media company. But we can dip into that and we can change it, man. And I encourage anybody to do this, by the way, to put out your voice and your narrative and speak up more now. Andy Frisella was in it, Patrick was doing it. That's the main reason to do it that way. And we should be able to do that. Freedom of speech while it's still free. I was on a podcast with Edward Collins. It was, and I talked about freedom of speech. And I remember saying it. I said, is it free? And I told him it was about, and we can say it now, it was about the election being rigged. And I said, you probably have to cut that out. And they had to cut it out, you know? So I'm just saying, like, and now because of Twitter, Twitter releasing the files because Elon Musk spent $44 billion is why we can talk about the election being rigged without censorship.
It's crazy. All right, I want to get into this next story real quick, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I think it needs to be addressed because this was pretty crazy. So 2 things simultaneously happened in Japan. Number 1, there was an earthquake. Number 2, Japan Airlines jet burst into flames after collision with earthquake relief plane. So insanity happened over the past, I think it was yesterday. An earthquake happens, and then a plane collides with another plane. And have you seen any of the video footage of it, Jeff, of the flight?
I've not actually, no.
It's crazy. It's plane. It's in a ball of fire. And to me, like, that's like, I'm shocked that it didn't hit more. It didn't make more news because there's so many other things going on. But I think it's very interesting to me that this happened and not a lot of people are talking about it. So first off, the Japan earthquake, race against time to find survivors. This is a Reuters story. So January 4th, thousands of rescuers pressed on to search for survivors of a New Year's Day earthquake that killed at least 84 people in Japan, hoping to save as many possible despite a 3-day survival window that ended on Thursday afternoon. We must continue putting all of our efforts into rescuing people, even beyond 72 hours after the disaster, Japanese Prime Minister. It said survival rates drop off 72 hours after a quake, according to emergency responders. So far, 156 people have been rescued, but at least 179 others remain unaccounted for, according to authorities. What a mess. The extent of the damage from the earthquake and the tsunami it triggered remains unclear, with rescuers struggling to reach the northern areas of the peninsula. So the earthquake and a tsunami, like that's I've never seen a tsunami in my life, but that's like one of my like craziest fears to ever think of. And what was, I think it was a 7.35 Richter scale on the earthquake. So that happens, and then this happens. Japan Airlines, this is a CNN story, so we can trust it. Japan Airlines jet burst into flames after collision with earthquake relief plane at Tokyo Haneda report. So that's it. This is crazy. Look at that. Do you see this?
Yeah, wow.
Let's see if this is...
This isn't Charmin. No wonder I don't feel as...
But 5 people were killed when the Japan Airlines plane carrying hundreds of passengers collided with an earthquake relief aircraft and burst into flames on landing at Tokyo Haneda Airport on Tuesday. All 779 people on JLL Flight 516, including 8 children under the age of 2, were safely evacuated from the passenger plane at the airline, but there were fatalities on the second aircraft. Excuse me, the Airbus A350-900 aircraft ignited after flying into Haneda from the northern Japanese city of Sapporo at 5:56 local time. Video showed a huge fireball erupt as the plane ignited, leaving a fire trail down the runway. 5 crew members died on the second aircraft. Public broadcaster said the plane's captain was in critical condition, and this is what it looks like after.
Oh my God.
So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is a tragedy. First there's an earthquake, and then there's this that happens. We barely talked about it, and now Japan's going through this. It reminds me of Meanwhile in China. It reminds me that of when everything happened with the Hawaii fires. People talked about it.
Right.
Biden said, I'll send $750 to the families of houses that burned down, completely burned down. And then that was it. That's all they got. They got $720, I think it was.
But yet we sell 80 billion to, or whatever, 8 billion to Ukraine.
Over 200 billion, I believe it is right now, to Ukraine, or 175 billion. It's insanity to me.
Yet they have Oprah and The Rock raise money.
Speaking of which, this is a good thing to bring up in my the next story. So I want to get into this story. The White House lists its major accomplishments for 2023. So let's go over it. Let's see how legitimate they are. Because listen, as much as I don't like Joe Biden, he still is technically my president. I mean, I didn't vote for him.
We root for the best of the country.
Of course, I want the best for the country. To be honest, every single time I see him on the screen and see one of his gaffes, I get embarrassed. I can't even watch the whole entire thing because I feel embarrassed for America because I know other people are viewing America. And that doesn't remind me of the America that I used to live in. Like America was strong. And right now it does not appear to be strong. But having said that, this is what the White House shared. So, major accomplishments of the Biden-Harris administration. Number one, we tackled inflation and lowered costs. Allowed Medicare to negotiate lower drug prices, capped insulin at $35 for seniors, and helped millions save on health insurance. Cracked down on junk fees and event tickets, banking, healthcare, and apartments, saving Americans billions. Helped over 22 million households save on internet. Save on internet? What do they mean? Save on internet. Is this from the White House? They gotta check. And the first phrase, save on internet, do they mean save on internet costs? I could be completely wrong, but that might be bad grammar. Anyway, tackled the climate crisis. Oh, dear Lord. Created 210,000 new clean energy jobs in just over a year, protected millions of acres of lands and waters, signed executive order to advance environmental justice, launched the American Climate Corps financial rule to cut methane pollution, invested in America and created good jobs, protected access to reproductive health care, took action to protect access to emergency medical care, abortion and contraception, strengthened privacy protection for parents and patients and doctors, defended in court women's ability to access medication and abortion. I wonder if they know what a woman is, though. Made America safer from gun violence. Chicago and parts of New York disagree with you. Created the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention in American history, funded an additional 14,000 school-based mental health professionals, announced new executive actions to keep guns out of dangerous hands and dangerous weapons off our streets, made higher education more affordable, strengthened democracy at home and abroad. Wow. How did they claim that? Stood up for our allies and partners in Israel, Ukraine, and across the globe, and strengthened our alliances around the world. We gave them all money. Spoke out against discrimination against racism, anti-LGBTQI plus hate. Pushed for stronger voting rights. Confirmed highly qualified judges. So,
by the way, did you know? Well, one of the words that I'll say, and whatever, I'm sure there's some people out there who think that's a good list, and maybe we can go through it line by line and say there's some decent things. But the one thing that says is it says the democracy. America is not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic is how we're funded. Everybody wants us to think it's a democracy because when they are, that's when there's dictatorship in, and that's where they're leading towards. So whether they, like the gun violence, very similar, if you all of a sudden say mental health, we're helping it, and listen, I'm all for people being safe and kids, I'm not saying that. It's getting to that democracy point where where basically it's going to be, it's funny that everybody called Trump, and I'm even with you. Anybody who doesn't like Trump had dictatorship way. Hey, I'm going to stay in here for 8 years. I'll never leave. What if I never leave? I get it. More the acts and actions with this Biden administration and the way they put in costs all the way down this list of accomplishments is going towards an Agenda 2030, which is a one world currency and to eradicate poverty. And we're on a vast base to actually have the government into control of all the money and not do it this way. And this is all smoke and mirrors on stuff that literally I haven't felt inflation get lower at all. I don't think anybody has. I think you could say that they lowered costs, but I don't believe they lowered costs at all. That's how I feel. Josh, I'm gonna kick you out.
One of the things I'd like to dive in a little bit deeper is
muted.
How am I muted? Sure, I'm muted.
No, you were. You're fine. I can hear you now.
Okay. One of the things I think we should dive in on a little bit deeper and just very briefly, because you tend to like bring up Agenda 2030, but use it as a throwaway. I don't think people are educated as you are about Agenda 2030. So I want to, like, if we bring something up like Agenda 2030, I want to unpack it because I don't think people know exactly what that is. So I'm gonna share my screen because this is something that it seems on the surface to be all good things. So I think it's important that we go over it. So there's 17 sustainable developmental goals. So basically for Agenda 2030, eradicating poverty is the greatest global challenge and an indispensable requirement for sustainable development. This agenda is a plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity. It also seeks to strengthen universal peace and larger freedom. All countries and all stakeholders acting in collaborative partnership will implement this plan. So, end poverty in all its forms everywhere. End hunger, achieve food security and improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. Ensure availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Promote sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. Build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. I cannot speak tonight. Reduce inequality within and among countries. Make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. Take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Conserve and sustainably use the ocean, seas, and marine resources for sustainable development. Protect, restore, promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystems. Sustainably manage forests. Combat desertification and halt reverse land degradation and halt biodiversity loss. These last couple of ones. Promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. Provide access to justice for all and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. Strengthen the means of implementation and revitalize the global partnership for sustainable development. So for me, I'm a patterns guy. Whenever I read something, whenever I see something, I tend to look at things and I tend to look for patterns because patterns tell stories. So one thing I've learned in life is that we are what we repeatedly do, right? There's that quote, I believe, by Confucius. This is true. When people develop patterns, believe them. So did you recognize a word that was repeated in there, like over and over and over again?
True, I did. It's not equality. It's something like inclusion. Inclusion?
You got it. Inclusive. Everything inclusive. Which means, hey, we're going to include people. But in order to include people, we have to make sure that they are on what you believe. And if they're not, and you're only bringing in the people that you are including, the people who are not inclusive get an automatic ticket to get kicked out. So what that means is if they're being inclusive because they think, hey, men should participate in women's sports, that's inclusive. And somebody gets up like a Riley Gaines and says, hey, listen, hold on a second. This is a women's sport. Let women compete. Well, she's not being inclusive. And I see that snowballing to an effect where they're using it to take people out because they're trying to make people seem like they're inclusive. If anyone disagrees with their inclusiveness, they'll get them out.
Yeah, I was looking up too, because this isn't the first time. Anytime I would bring this up to people like they know, they'd say, well, they do agendas all the time. Like Trump has agenda 45 or 47, right? And I get it. Agendas aren't bad. Like agendas are good. I'm a businessman. You need agendas. Agendas that have patterns in them and I kind of bottom line it, right? If you deep dive into the 45 United Nations, it might be more who signed off on it. One thing's a one world currency. I believe we have, 2023, 2024. I believe we have 6 years. I believe we have 6 years until America is no longer a free country. I hope I'm wrong. I'm going to do everything I am to come on here every single time. I may even, run for a governmental office at one time if that's the case. I always wanted to do that when I was a kid. I watched Mr. City Goes to Washington. That's part of what this is. This is making planting a flag on. I'm going to discuss issues like this. It's going to be it because I think you need more. And I do want to get in before you go. I want to get into Vivek and answering that question in town hall.
So let's do that story. Let's do the story about the guy attacking the judge for denying probation.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
That's crazy. So we'll get into that. Let's get into the Vivek story first. But before we do that, let me ask this. Do you think we are at a point? Do you think what's going on right now is since things are bad, right? Our leadership is poor, that we immediately think that things are just going to get worse. Before you answer, there's that thought process of when things are bad, human beings tend to think things are going to be bad forever. When things are good, human beings think things are going to be good forever. It's just how we are, right? Well, it's always going to be like this. So are we thinking that right now because Biden's in and he is not doing what we thought he'd be doing? The board's a mess. Biden's a mess. The economy's a mess. Our foreign policy is a mess. Our domestic policy is just completely vacant. Is the reasoning because of we don't think things are going well? Is that the reasoning why we think, hey, that you might think that by 2030 we're not going to be free anymore in America?
No, I just think, it's not just. I don't think it's just Biden. I really don't. What's maybe not want to run for president is that I don't think the presidents make a lot of decisions. I think they disrupt everything, which I think is what Trump did. I think he disrupted a lot of plans that they wanted, which is why they're trying so hard to make him not run. I think there's a bigger agenda, clearly, and I do believe that we're moving towards that very thing. And I do believe it's with, George Soros, the World Economic Forum. I believe there's a big push by a lot of people who want power and control and saying, hey, let's see if we can do this. Can we get everybody on a social digital currency? Can we get everybody to track their social score, right? The whole quote is, you own nothing and will be happy, right? And
that's the World Economic Forum, yeah.
Yep. And that's what Agenda 2030 is. So they're going line in line. And the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, one of the guys I met at Valley Tatement's thing, his name's Posh. He was actually at the World Economic Forum. He saw it. I was like, hey, what do you think? And he had all these numbers of the Rothschilds and stuff. He was sitting right next to me. He was showing me this, and he was kind of showing me, like, they're not all bad there. Was his point, And I was like, dude, good kid. He does consulting. He's like, you can make way more money in consulting.
So what's the reasoning behind all this? Like, what do you think is the reasoning why they're doing Agenda 2030?
I think it's godly and ungodly. I think if you do not revere God and you don't fear God, you want to become your own God. And listen, me closing 50K consulting deals and whatever I get to paid speak, you could be like, wow, it's all you. And if you don't give the accountability or the credit to God, to a higher being, you then think you are God. And I think we have a lot of people, George Soros included, that on certain levels, when you make money and you win, whether you do it demonically and bad, and Jeffrey Epstein made a lot of money by blackmailing people, or you do it in a way where George Soros stole from the Holocaust. He was Jewish and stole from people in the Holocaust. You do it in an unethical way. You want power control. After you have all the money, what's left? Control, right? And that's what it's at.
So I agree. I agree 100%. I think godly and ungodly. I think it's evil. I think it's demonic. I think it's demonic influence. I think it's deeper than just godly and ungodly. I think it's satanically influenced. Not saying that these are a bunch of Satanists. I just think that they're influenced by things that are evil. Now, having said that, you and I believe in God, but there are people who don't. So let's play devil's advocate for a second and talk to those people. What's the reasoning, taking God out of the equation? What's the reasoning why they want to do Agenda 2030?
I mean, it's still control. Like, how, dude, like, here's the thing. I'm not this way, right? Like, okay, why do I want to be president, right? There's a little control. There's a little ego. There's a little hero complex, right? You say that all the time. Here's the thing. I don't know if I can trust Vivek. I think Trump's a little divisive. Robert F. Kennedy, I think he means well. I trust myself. That's really the reason why. And to see if I can get a whole bunch of people to do it. And by the way, those guys are probably all right at this moment more qualified than me. Communicate better, been in politics more, know something. They have different ways, right? But I think everybody, and not everybody, but certain people have a hero complex. They want to be in control, right? There's narcissists in relationships and abusive relationships who want to get control. It's just at a bigger level. Like, what's the biggest level? Be control of the world, It's world domination. It's what every movie we watch was always about. Austin Powers.
Right. So this is, yeah, that's funny. This is my thought.
Maybe that was your programming.
So this is what I think. I agree. I think it is control. But I think it stems from a source of wanting and needing to feel loved. But in order to get that power, there's different levels it unlocks at. And these guys already surpass all those levels. So when you get, the feeling, right? You get, somebody gives you $100. You go, whoa, dude, $100 is a lot of money. Then you get $1,000 in your bank account. And you're like, whoa, dude, $1,000 is a lot of money. Then you get 10,000. And you're like, whoa, dude, $10,000 is a lot of money. Then you get 50, right? So on and so forth. But then when you get 50,000, somebody gives you $100. You go, oh, that's nice, right?
Dude, it's so funny. That's where I'm at right now. It's so crazy.
Right. So imagine that level on hundreds and millions and billions of dollars, like Dr. Evil. And then you go, what else? What else is there? And I think if you're not true to yourself about fulfilling what you want to fulfill as that that will be helpful for you, helpful for the people that you love, it's all going to be centered around how it makes you feel. And I think a lot of these people don't really feel that much anymore because they have everything. So if they have everything, they need to have everything. They need to have the globe. And they can justify it to themselves and saying, hey, man, I'll make the world a better place. We're going to have renewable energy. We're going to have all these different things. But really, it's about I will have control. And even when it gets then, what the Bible says, you gain the whole world, but you lose your soul. It doesn't matter. Like, there's going to be a next level.
Did you ever watch the George Soros documentary on Netflix?
I have not, no.
So I started watching Patrick PBD, he watched it. So that's why I started watching it. There's actually a new one that I want to watch on Uber. On the guys who started Uber, it's like a 7-part series. Because they're entrepreneurs. And like what I love is business owners who can build a business, exit it and sell it for billions of dollars and run for president. just like my man Vivek Ramaswamy. Do you want me to bring it up, or you want to bring it up?
I've got it up right now.
All right, that's what I figured. We're getting the chemistry down. I'm setting up.
Good. I'm glad. So this is a very, very interesting. So the nice thing is Trump did the same type of stuff, but Vivek is just more calculated with how he does it. So let's watch it. Let's take a look at it. So there was a gentleman named Steve King that announced he was going to endorse Vivek. Predictably, a lame reporter from Washington Post tried to get me to play the game of denouncing white supremacy, while she refused to actually define white supremacy, which in recent years encompasses concepts like punctuality and the written word. I refused to play along with her game. So let's listen to this. It's 3 minutes and 20 seconds. It's long. I think we should listen to a majority of it.
Do you condemn white supremacy and white nationalism?
I mean, who are you with? It's Washington Post. All right, so potato. Okay. Of course, I condemn any form of vicious racial discrimination in this country. But I think that the presumption of your question is fundamentally based on a falsehood that really is the main form of racial discrimination we see in this country today. Institutionalized racism is institutionalized racial discrimination that we see that doesn't come from somehow discriminating against people on the basis of some tenet of white supremacy. It's based on affirmative action. It's based on actually discriminating against people on the color of their skin in a way that's actually institutionalized today. Was there a point in our history, at points in our prior national history, where there have been vicious forms of anti-black or anti-brown discrimination throughout this country after the Civil War and otherwise? Yes. But you're looking in the rearview mirror and using that to pose a question today that is so far removed from what the reality is in America today. This myth of white supremacy, the closest you can find is Jussie Smollett, where you all were actually, speaking of trust in the media, jumping up and down over some false narrative. The best way you're able to find your best instance of white supremacy was a guy who was actually paying his other fellow people to be actually staging something that didn't happen. And so stop picking on this farce of some figment that exists at some infinitesimally small fringe of the American public today to open our eyes to the actual real threats that we face. And I think that it's frankly questions and framings like that that has caused the American public to lose all trust in the mainstream media, I'm sorry to say, for good reason.
You didn't say that you condemn white supremacy.
I'm not going to recite some catechism for you. I'm against vicious racial discrimination in this country. So I'm not pledging allegiance to your new religion of modern wokeism, which actually fits the test. I'm not going to bend the knee to your religion. I'm sorry. I'm not asking you to bend the knee to mine, and I'm not going to bend the knee to yours. But do I condemn vicious racial discrimination? Yes, I do. Am I going to play your silly game of gotcha? No, I'm not. And frankly, this is why people have lost trust. And I know you're going to go print the headline tomorrow. I already know this. We already know how your game works. Vivek Ramaswamy refuses to condemn white supremacy because you asked a stupid question. The reality is, I condemn vicious racial discrimination in this country, but the kind of vicious and systematic racial discrimination we see today is discrimination on the basis of race in a very different direction. You want to know what the best way is to end discrimination on the basis of race? Stop discriminating on the basis of race. Do that, and we're going to move this country forward. And I don't care whether you're black or white or brown or anything in between. That's how we're going to unite this country. You people have been responsible for dividing this country to a breaking point, creating a projection of national division. I meet people from the south side of Chicago to meetings like this one of every shade of melanin, multiple, from man to woman, doesn't make a difference, who are hungry for reviving unity in this country. And you, with your catechism that you try to get to politicians to whatever fake headline you're going to print on the basis of this conversation tomorrow, that's what's dividing this country to a breaking point. Shame on you. Look people in the eye and tell them what you've actually failed to tell them for the last 5 years. Own the accountability for your own failures as the media. That's how we rebuild trust in this country. And until then, I don't have a lot of patience to play the games.
What do you expect from it? At an earlier event, you talked about members of...
So, great answer.
By the way, who clapped?
I don't know who clapped. But, jeez, what's going on in my life? Come on, Monte. So let's take a look at this right here. So this is the reporter that asked him that question. I asked Vivek if he condemned white supremacy. So, wait, first off, let's see. This is January 2nd. At a Vivek Ramaswamy town hall, a video just played of former Rep. Steve King endorsing him. King became a party pariah and lost his seat after questioning why white supremacy is offensive in an interview. The endorsement was first reported by, I asked Vivek if he condemned white supremacy. Vivek said to stop picking on all the farce of figment and of some figment that exists at some infamously small fringe. He said he condemns vicious racial discrimination, but would not bend the knee and condemn white supremacy, right? So then X Notes said, Vivek condemned all forms of racism. This post is very misleading.
So X tends to like Vivek.
I mean, I think they tend to like the truth. So the thing is,
Funny that Elon Musk. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the thing is he said that. He said, of course I do. He started off with, of course I do, right? And then she said that he didn't, which to me is very, again, misleading, very frustrating because they think the viewers are not smart enough to pick up on the fact that
well, they're not, though. If all of a sudden nobody saw that video and he didn't post it and they just post in there,
then it's going to be a headline.
Right, and that's what he said, and he called them out on it, which you got to make people a little bit more scared to write those stories. Dude, it's crazy. We shouldn't even have the Washington Post. We should not have some of these things that are just like literally like I was kind of Trump. I thought Trump would go crazy on stuff. I still do. But he's like, we should sue the press. I'm like, and then they're like, oh my God, this is like Russia. They're like, want to sue the press and there's no freedom of press. Listen, I don't think there is a freedom of press. Like, this is it. That when we get to talk about this, is it now? We have this now, okay? So it's crazy. It's just, here's the thing. I'm very passionate about moving ahead and looking ahead. And you're not going to get this by ever pointing a finger and looking in the past. And Vivek said extremely thing. You got to look, okay, here we are now. How can we improve, right? We're here at this point. And for them to paint a narrative, and this happened with Lyndon Baines Johnson and policies he's put in, and people put in policies to, and it's just more problematic. It just made more people point the fingers, and it caused more divide. And on top of the policies that did that, redlining, certain policies that were actually done by politicians in here, to then finally us being where we are today, and now the media looking back and saying, hey, nope, this person's racist, Trump's racist, when
it's crazy. I think
when Joe Biden did the 1994 crime bill, used the N-word, right? Nobody talks about this stuff multiple times, right? When he was young and big thing too, in not a good way, in a very racist way, okay? And like, so my whole point is, and this is the guy that we're like, oh, the economy's okay. It's not that bad. We're not in recession. Like, we're not on the brink of World War III. Joe Biden should run again. Which, dude, it's crazy the fact that he's even going to run again.
So what Biden is doing is I put it in one of my posts, and I'm going to read it for a second because I was thinking about it for a while, and I was like, man, I think this is where we're at, and this is what I'm afraid of. I said, America is crumbling. I'm not a politician, but we have some serious problems in America, and we can tell just how people are acting. They don't respect our leaders, they don't listen, and they flirt with ways to overturn the system. They aren't wrong. We are not being respected, listened to, or cared for. Americans feel it every day when we go to the grocery store. They get angry when it costs them $70 to fill their gas tank, and then watch the news as we send millions of dollars to another nation. And instead, the leaders in America instead of the leaders in America listening and respecting us, they constantly tell us the burning building we are all standing in isn't on fire. That's the whole thing. That's what people are saying. That's it right there. Instead of the leaders in America listening and respecting us, they constantly tell us the building we are all standing in isn't on fire. Listen, one of the things when I took over a couple businesses and it was bad, I felt the need to try and preach the truth and say things are going to be good. But I realized I was losing credibility with people because I was saying that the building wasn't burning. Like I had to point it out and say, they're burning his building. This is bad. This is what we need to do to get out. And no one was doing that. And now, right now, the building is burning. And Biden is telling us that, hey, it's not on fire. The administration is. And that's where we're at. And we're getting gaslit, no pun intended, the fact that we're saying that, everything's great. But Americans are looking at their bank accounts every week and going, man, things aren't great right now. What is going on? So it's just insane to me. And I think that the problem is with news reports like the Washington Post doing things like that to Vivek. And now people are looking at it, and they're thankfully, because of social media, because of X, they're seeing both sides. And now they're going, wait a second, what is going on? Anybody with critical thinking skills is starting to learn that, man, maybe the media doesn't have my best interests at heart. Not only that, but they have an agenda. And what is the agenda? And what are they actually trying to tell me? Because if you look at it, it seems to be that they're feeding you certain things along the way. And what they're doing is for their own interests.
That's even why the Epstein stuff, I don't even take the bait. Like, we got to address it. It's fine. But like, what are they trying to divide? Like, what are they trying to hide again with something? Or maybe they're trying to hide Epstein because they're saying that. But shout out in the chat. Someone chat in the chat. This chat plus the guy in white is not bad.
Fantastic. Thank you, people. All right. So let's get into our last story. I just want to cover this one because this was bizarre to me, man. I do not know.
The last story. I don't. How does this even happen? Maybe this has happened in different courts, and we didn't. I feel like this is something on People's Court or something you'd see.
This is 10 times what's on People's Court, right? Some people yell, the bailiff will grab them, and whatever it is. This is exactly the opposite. Instead, people were posting comments. Barstool Sports, which Barstool Sports is Barstool Sports is Barstool Sports right now. It's crazy. But they posted the video of him jumping, and it said Troy Polamalu on 4th and 1, and him jumping over the thing. And I was like, that's actually kind of true, you know? So this is crazy. I want to watch the whole video. People have been only posting one part of the video, but I want to give some context to it because this is just insane to me. I'm shocked this even happened.
I appreciate that, but I think it's time that he gets a taste of something else because I just can't with that history. In accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, this court.
Get off her. Oh, man. You're good. Stop. Don't do this. Please. Hey, where's Mary Kate? Is she okay? Hey, can you fucking radio somebody? Yeah, give me all the arm. Fucking radio somebody.
Oh, Shane, baby. Shane's like a hospital.
Oh my gosh, dude. This fucking skin's hanging. Oh, come on, buddy. Call 911. Hey, where's Mary Kate?
She's right here.
We're going to be done in a second. I'll lower it.
Wow. So crazy.
What was that? That was the alarm at the end?
Yeah, somebody set off the alarm. Like, what? Okay. She said, I don't think you learned your lesson in the beginning. so I'm going to do something else. And I guess she was about to deny his probation. And he said, nah, fuck that. And ran after her and jumped over and attacked her. And we didn't see it. That video was 1.5 minutes long. And we didn't see her get back up. I don't know what happened. I'm going to see if we found anything else that happened. And what
that was the one thing.
What happened?
I didn't know if that happened recently or not. You know, that was recent.
That was recent. Yeah.
By the way, did you see Tim Pool's headline below there?
No.
Car filled with explosives, and he put, "Come on, 2024 just started."
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah. Okay, the defendant, Deborah DeLone Redden, was jailed on $54,000 bail and refused to return in court on Thursday on new charges. So a judge rescheduled his next appearance for January 9th. Redden, 30, faces 13 counts, including extortion and coercion with force. 7 of the new counts are battery on a protected person, referring to the judge and officers who came to her aid. Redden had to be wrestled off the judge Wednesday by several court and jail officials, courtroom staff members, including some who were seen throwing punches. One courtroom marshal was hospitalized for treatment of a bleeding gash in his forehead and dislocated shoulder. It happened so fast it was hard to know what to do. Let's see. Redden's sentencing was not immediately rescheduled. He's been violent his whole adult life. Redden's defense attorney declined to comment Thursday. Yeah, what's his attorney gonna say? His attorney's like,
dude. I mean, dude, that's the thing. There are some bad people in life. Like, they had violent all day. It was obviously violent on the last thing. This is why, like, we don't give enough thanks to, like, the people, you know, as much as our justice system can be improved and stuff, like, you know, we do have a justice system for that, to put people like that away, right, that aren't doing the right thing, right? Like, you got to have some rule and order. And, I mean, it's just insane because that guy, I mean, obviously, it's funny that this hasn't happened more. You have a criminal guy who's beating people. He jumped over, had mad ups, and beats up the judge. And hopefully she's okay and everybody's okay. It did also show, I felt like nobody was really trained. The guy was just, like, punching him on top of him. Like, it was just, it's funny because always when I'm in a court, there's always all these court marshals around. And it feels like there's a lot of security, at least me when I've been in court. Right?
Same.
Right? So it just felt, and then everybody was walking around like bumbling idiots, and she never got up. It just felt like there was nothing. The one thing I think that everybody could do, an operation, I think it's Black Thing Misses, everybody should do this, and maybe we'll start up one too, is a self-defense physical act and do something to be strong, like on a thing. So you're ready for situations
sure.
like
yeah.
that.
I mean, well, here's the thing. I think everybody should be trained in that. I think, honestly, that should be part of our education. But the problem being is that guy, it's the punch that you don't see coming, right? That hurts you. And that guy literally jumped over a wall to get to the judge. Said, nah, fuck that. And jumped over the wall to attack the judge. What was his plan? He was just going to beat her up? Was he going to kill her? Is that attempted murder? Like, what is going on? That guy should be jailed. And, like, I don't know what happened. Like, the guy should be.
We should file this case because, but it's crazy. He'll probably, and he should, you know, probably be put away longer than anybody in the Epstein case, you know. And I mean, I guess I don't know if you can make anything too worse. I do think there's times with children, you know, there's something about protecting children and everything, and the fact that some of the greatest, Prince William, Bill Clinton, all these guys are on this whole thing in there. It's just like, it's sad. It's very sad for the victims. It's very sad for the people who maybe weren't even doing anything bad and they got blackmailed by Epstein. Like, imagine this, Epstein was maybe this mysterious rich guy and had an island, right? And this is what I was going to say before. And maybe it was like, I mean, I love Ed Milet, so I'm not putting Ed Milet in this thing, but Ed Milet bought an island. And if we just hung around Ed Milet and Ed Milet said, hey, I'm going to take you to your island here. And then it was like all this stuff, and we got blackmailed and said, hey, right? Like, oh my God, right? Now, Ed Milet, I'm so sorry to put you in that situation. He wanted to buy an island at one point. That's the reason why I'm saying, okay? So, my point is, and by the way, did you see the video with Melinda Gates talking about how she knew Jesse. He was evil.
Yes.
And that's why she broke up with Bill Gates, which I don't know if Bill Gates was on the island either, but.
So and she was broke up. She was married to him. It's the reason why that was his wife. And she was like, I could just tell he was evil.
Dude, and they got divorced recently.
Yes, he made my skin crawl.
Because during COVID, I called when I was trying to make a vaccine for this, because people said I couldn't do it. I called the Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation. I left them a voicemail.
Great.
And they're no longer together.
So now it's going to be like the Bill Gates voicemail logs. And it's going to be Jeff J. Cunningham.
Dude, I left a voicemail. It was on there.
With the way
vaccines
vaccines have gone, I'm not sure that's the greatest thing to have.
You know what happened was, this is exactly what happened. Comeback Cam in the episode, he said, Jeff, I don't think we're going to whip up because the world was shutting down. I was like, this is stupid. The whole world shouldn't shut down. And so up till then, before the vaccine became so whatever it became, because they weren't thought of as bad. Like now RFK has killed all the vaccines, right?
Yeah,
they're all
not all
bad.
vaccines are bad. I'm not saying they are. I got the Tdap shot from my son.
Right. We've been vaccinated when we were young, yes. This one was very problematic. And anyway, he said, we're not going to whip a vaccine. So I talked to Ahmad, I talked to a few people, and I thought, well, what's it take? It just takes a bunch of scientists. I just need to put some people in a room, right? And unfortunately, Pfizer did it and made a ton of money on it. So
that joke always comes to my mind, and I always think it's funny. Of there's two rats sitting in the bar, and one rat looks at the other one and says, "Hey, you thinking about getting the vaccine?" And the rat goes, "Nah, I'm waiting for the test on humans first." And honestly, we were the test subjects, and it's pretty crazy. And it was crazy that they went, "This is brand new. It's guaranteed to work." And we were all like, for sure. It was crazy. What a crazy time to live in. Like I
had donuts dressed around as a syringe and giving people free donuts to get it.
Dude, when you see a burger, think of vaccinations. Ew. Like
I just had a burger.
Oh man, I could go for a burger. All right. We're gonna wrap up, guys.
Shout out to Bonefish Grill out here in Adventura.
This was a great show. Once again, thank you guys so much for joining. Please comment below. What are your thoughts on Mr. Epstein? Do you think anybody's going to be held accountable? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And Jeff, what do you got before we leave?
Just shout out to the lady barber who cut my beard. I'm admiring it in here. I think it came out pretty good. She kept it a little longer. I wanted it shorter. But yeah, click like, subscribe, and share. We're going to be starting sponsorships as well and putting up sponsorship deck. And yeah, that's it. And shout out, if you're looking to get me, you can connect with me. And Nicole, if you're listening to this, get Josh a connect.
Please. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your night. Be great. And remember, I'll throw you out. You no idea how powerful you are. You have no idea how powerful you are, my friends. Have a great night, everyone.